Hello and welcome. I am live from Pellam's Wasteland, and today I have another episode of Pellam's Wasteland reads for you all, this time covering Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny, um, which is a book that I suspect not too many people need specifically recommended to them, like a number of the sort of really good books that I have talked about. This is one of those that I suspect that plenty of people already know about. But anybody who doesn't know about it, hopefully they will learn about it from me talking about it. And anybody who is on the fence about reading it, hopefully they will try it out after hearing about it. Roger Zelazny, a sci-fi fantasy author who wrote a number of really good things, really often very interested in kind of taking a lot of the sort of sci-fi stuff of the period and doing something much more kind of mythological and literary with it. There's this kind of idea, right, in sci-fi in particular, this sort of split between hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi, basically, as kind of sci-fi that is about science and sci-fi that is about basically people who live in a world that is defined by science and technology in different and interesting ways. And Zelazny is definitely of the latter camp. He is broadly speaking much more interested in these characters and kind of their personalities and their existence, and less, not really interested at all, certainly in this book, and in the other ones of his that I've read, not really interested at all in like trying to explain the nature of the technology or anything like that. um, which, to be clear, is part of what I like so much about Roger Zelazny, because I am definitely of the same camp in what I want to read. So that's pretty good. Um, Lord of Light is a science fiction book that follows a human civilization on a planet after a colony ship has landed, and there is a division of essentially political difference between the first, as they call them, basically the crew of the colony ship, who are familiar with all of the technology and have a better understanding of how to use it and how to manipulate it, and also fears about what could be done with it, basically. And this division becomes typified as the Deocrats versus the Accelerationists. The Deocrats being believers in the rule of these established divine beings that are who these first will become, and the accelerationists being of the theory that it would be better to distribute technology to all of the people who live on the planet and allow them to make decisions about how it's used for themselves instead of controlling it. And among the most important pieces of technology is a piece of technology that allows the mind of a living person to be taken out of one body and put into a new host, a sort of empty vessel, that has to be specially grown for the purpose, but it allows for essentially reincarnation. Um, and this ends up leading the way into the Deocrat position, which becomes the creation of what is essentially a reinvention of the Hindu pantheon, um, and all of this belief in karma and dharma, and this idea that, well, you have to behave well in this life so that you will be reincarnated better in the next life, so that you will eventually ascend to your kind of eventual final tier rewards, right? This idea of the long term importance of obedience and acting within the prescribed limits of this society and all that sort of stuff. And so this becomes rather conveniently for them a method of control, right? This idea that, well, this is how we convince a person who perhaps, um, might otherwise not be convinced to behave if, if they are logically understanding the ramifications of their behavior, not just in the right now, but in the eventual hereafter, that they will choose to behave differently. And if they don't choose to behave differently, don't choose to follow the rules, basically, we can put their soul into a laborer or even an animal or something, and have that be a punishment, and then they'll just kind of be weeded out of the pool, basically, the pool of living beings. And in response to this, our protagonist, Mahasamatman, who drops the Maha and the Atman just for Sam, um, Sam decides to reinvent Buddhism, basically, to respond to this reinvented Hinduism, and to transform this deocrat power structure. And so what we get is this really fascinating blend of kind of philosophy and sort of religious struggle, this kind of theological debate that goes on, as well as these kind of grand mythological almost um, sequences, these kind of great action scenes that are sort of sci-fi action, but through the lens of this kind of, Arthur C. Clarke idea about magic and technology and all of that. And so yeah, a really fun and well done book, and Roger Zelazny is really great and super fun to read. And this book is really great and super fun to read. It is, I will say, not the easiest sci-fi book to read. I think so structurally it has some interesting things going on, where there's some kind of time jumps and skips and things out of order, and you just kind of have to accept not knowing everything from the start, and that gradually a lot of, especially a lot of the background stuff that I've talked about in the video, a lot of that will be kind of eventually revealed further on down the line in the book. And so if you go into the book without knowing any of that, and I guess I should have said spoilers for a lot of that sort of stuff. I don't think that spoilers necessarily makes the book any worse to know. Um, but reading it kind of totally blind is different, because you don't have that grounding, really. um but yeah, ultimately I think this is a the second time that I have read Lord of Light. I have enjoyed it a whole lot both times. It's a really fun book. I think it is kind of where I like my sci-fi to be, basically, being this book that is not really very concerned with real science, and is much more concerned with the way that all of these characters and all of these people choose to kind of live their lives when structured by technology in a very different way than ours is. And there's some great sequences. There's one of the quotes that I remember from this time reading through is Sam saying, "Doubt is the chastity of the mind." And I liked that a lot. I thought that was really good. So yeah, overall, it's a strange blend of science fiction and Hindu and Buddhist mythology, and all of these different kind of things come together into this grand epic story about all of these kind of larger than life characters who are struggling with very real um, difficulties of understanding kind of science and technology. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to think about the the conflict between these characters, and specifically this the kind of core philosophical difference between the Deocrats and the Accelerationists, and this idea of kind of, well, what does it mean to spread uncontrolled technology and what does it mean to control it and all of that sort of stuff. And anyway, I think it's really good, and totally worth checking out if any of this sounds interesting to you. Um, yeah. So it's also not too long. It's like 300 pages, um, in I think 7 parts, if I remember, each of which is kind of a cohesive story within the whole, and then they kind of you gradually sort of see how they all fit together in different ways. Some of them more closely than others, and all that. But anyway, that is Roger Zelazny's Lord of Light, and that is going to be it for me for today. If you have read this book and have thoughts about it, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, I've been live from Pellam's Wasteland, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody.